Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're going to be talking about the roadmap again, but something for the potential far future. You see, ever since the announcement that Lord Packs will now feature free races, I've been actually quite optimistic because that means that a lot of races could get a lot of attention. And I've spoken about this idea on stream many times ever since the announcement, and I want to compile it into a video because I think it's something that we could see maybe after the roadmap, in the second roadmap, whenever Creative Assembly gets to the point of releasing that. So after the current one is done and then add in an extra year, I imagine, because, you know, delays. Jokes aside, what races am I thinking of? I'm thinking of a BIG Lustria focused DLC, as that could be kind of interesting, mostly because a lot of the factions and races there do need a little bit of attention, and a lot of these races could eventually show up in the Realm of Chaos map. Hell, we do have a Lizardmen faction there with the Dragon Isles. It could also be the case that Creative Assembly might listen and just do a DLC directed to the Immortal Empires, which they've said no plans for that just yet, but yeah, I mean, it could be useful, as people mostly want to play on the big map, so yeah, you know, the narrative is cool in the Realm of Chaos, but it would be nice just to see focus being pushed to Immortal Empires on DLC that makes sense for Immortal Empires alone. So for this DLC slash patch cycle, because I'm going to mention 4 races here, I'm thinking Lizardmen, Cathay, yes, I know, they're already getting DLC soon, but I imagine that they'll have a decent amount of DLC since we know there's a decent amount of Dragon Children that are missing right now in terms of actually being in-game, and it was kind of hinted that their army book was fairly large, but let's continue. Skaven, yeah, I know Skaven get a lot of attention, but just let me cook when we get to that part. And then finally, Vampire Coast. A big focus on Game 2 races, obviously, but also a Game 3 race, which, yeah, we're expecting a lot of content. Overall, I'd say that all these races kind of need a little bit more anyway. Yes, even with Shadows of Change still not out yet. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump into each race specifically and just talk about some stuff, because I've got some ideas. We'll start off with the Lizardmen, because I imagine that the Lizardmen will have the most attention in a DLC like this, as, let's be honest, they need a lot of attention, they need a big rework. The Lizardmen are a cool faction, they've actually got quite a lot of units, they've got a lot of legendary lords too. Hell, they even have an extremely overpowered legendary hero, but the problem is that the Lizardmen did not age well. They're a faction which most people do tend to avoid, unless they're playing, say for example, Oxyotl, who has the most unique campaign out of all of them. So I wouldn't say that they need much in terms of content, but they need a lot of mechanics, which again makes it replayable. Fixing up a lot of mechanics here and there, so you've got a reason to play Mazdamundi, and then if you want to play Lizardmen again, you can then decide to play Krokkar, or that you could decide to play Tehenowin. I keep forgetting he's a thing, because he does have unique mechanics, but the problem that he suffers from the base game mechanics, which is just not fun. Especially the research tree, let's be honest. The research tree is probably one of the biggest issues that the Lizardmen have right now. I mean, it's incredibly anti-fun. It's one of those things where, you know, if you haven't played Lizardmen for a while, you need to get specific buildings to unlock specific branches, and then you need other buildings to be able to get the side branch. It's just not cool. So yeah, the grand majority of the attention can go towards the Lizardmen with a little bit of additions in terms of content. Tetto'eko could be an interesting legendary lord. You see, he's a skink, but a rather well-respected one, as this skink has very much tapped into the magical winds and is able to more or less predict the future, so much so that many Slan actually respect him as one of their equals. Like many other temple guard, for example, will revere him as much as a Slan. And he's a pretty cool model. I mean, yeah, it's another guy on a palanquin, and the palanquins aren't really great, but it's very unique, you have to admit that. And it's one of the more unique missing characters for the Lizardmen. It's really weird to think on how the race doesn't really do that well, yet has so much content to it. I believe that a good patch would fix them up fully, but it would be nice just to finish them off fully too. So yeah, this would be a spellcaster with the Lore of Light. I think he'd be pretty cool in general. Plus, he could have some sort of mechanics to make the enemy take longer to arrive to you and so on. It's mostly because we know from the lore that whilst Tetto'eko has been present in a Lizardmen battle, the Lizardmen have never actually lost. So I think that Creative Assembly could really have a lot of fun designing this character and coming up with some unique mechanics. I can't really think of anything too much, barring, like, yeah, the thing with Kairos where you would be able to get to your enemy and your allies would arrive sooner, and your enemies would arrive later in terms of reinforcements. But just like, say, for example, Oxyotl, you put the game designers at work with what little lore we have, and we could get something really fun. For a legendary hero, they could easily do Chakax the Eternity Warden, as I'm actually very surprised here, but he's very much requested by the fanbase. I mean, he's a temple guard, but he's known to be one of the greatest living temple guards. Very, very powerful in melee, and he's there to protect Slann. That's all he really does. He will stay with them when they're meditating, when they're the most vulnerable, and he will literally fight off anything, even Skaven assassins, as long as he needs to get his job done. So yeah, very powerful melee character, which could basically destroy other characters and also destroy units too by himself. I know that he's mostly seen with Slann, but Tetto'eko has the same reverence, so I imagine that Chakax would also be trusted to guard Tetto'eko should he need any help when he's divining the stars. So yeah, I mean, it kind of fits. Plus, he could be available to everyone anyway, you know? Kind of like how all legendary heroes are being released so far, where they're available to everyone within that same race. It would be good. There's some characters that could do with a bit of a melee powerhouse. Mazdamundi could do with some help. Gorok is fine, obviously Krokka is fine. Oxyotl, yeah, he's okay. Tanuin does need some help though. And with Chakax, that pretty much gets us all the big named characters. Yes, there's Tinsy Wincy and so on, but I feel like Chakax would probably be the easier choice. It would be a rig that they can already reuse and so on, which, yeah, cheap, but I guess that's going to happen when the race is pretty much already done. Now, in terms of generic stuff like units and so on, there's not really much missing. Obviously, the Slann Mage Priest needs its other laws of magic, because it's better to have the variants and not use them than not have them at all. I know some people are big fans of the other laws of magic too, so yeah, I mean, that would just be kind of helpful. Skink Cold One Riders would be really, really nice, mostly because it would give you like a shock troop with the skinks in case you want to go full skink army, which when you're playing with Tanuin you kind of want to do that anyway, and it would just be cool. Again, not the most important unit. I actually think that the Lizardmen don't have that much important stuff missing, but I mean, cool stuff is cool stuff. Same thing could be said about Colchins. You know, big terror birds, they would be basically weaker cold ones, possibly a lot faster, which would be kind of cool. Age of Sigmar replaced them with the Dilophosaurus mount, which I can't remember what it's called, but Colchins are still part of lore for Warhammer Fantasy, especially since we know the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay book for Lustria, the source book, has Colchins there too, so it just kind of makes sense. They could even bring back Colchin Riders, which was something in like 4th edition? Way back. I know it was more known in the roleplay aspect, but Colchin Riders would be fun for a really fast cavalry, not so much for shock, but more harassment. And you could even have two variants there, you know, one with spear and shield, and the other one with blowpipes, moving blowpipes at an incredible fast speed. Would kind of be cool for the Lizardmen. After that, there's pretty much nothing left. I mean, there's the Thunder Lizard, which wasn't an official model, but has been mentioned in the past. There's a fan-made model, but it would be kind of cool. Get another big thing. I mean, you've already got the Dreadsaurian, but why not something else? The model that you're seeing is a fan-made model, which is absolutely awesome. And, well, if they decide to move it into the realm of chaos, the Lizardmen faction would have to be in the Dragon Isles. We know that Thunder Lizards can be found in the Dragon Isles. It kind of fits. And again, big monster. I mean, that's the big strength about Warhammer Fantasy. If we could get more big monsters, that's awesome. Now, there could be stuff that I'm missing from the Lizardmen, but it's been a while since I've actually looked at their older lore, mostly because I'm avoiding painting up my Lizardmen for Old World, so yeah, that's going to be a while. So if you guys think of anything, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, obviously, but really I think the main bulk of attention needs to go to the Lizardmen to fix them up over anything else. Whereas the next race, Grand Cathay, well, we don't know much about Grand Cathay. This is the thing. Obviously, the army book is not out yet, and it's not going to be out for a long time, as confirmed by Games Workshop, so yeah, big sad. However, what we do know is that Yin-yin, the sea dragon, we have no illustration of her, but she originally, many years ago, led an unsuccessful invasion to Lustria. Yes, that lore tidbit, which existed and actually got carried over to the old world, still exists. It's just they changed the name of the character. Well, they removed the original character and made it Yin-yin, but it kind of works out. See it as this way. Yin-yin faced defeat at the hands of the Lizardmen. Now, she still had that feeling of anger towards them, and after a while has felt like she's ready to launch another invasion. So Cathayans coming in there with a bunch of skirmish units, pirate-themed Cathayan units, so, you know, moving shooters, mobile skirmishing troops, all that type of stuff, which we kind of would expect from the largest human nation in the world. This is something that was confirmed in lore, so we could easily expect a rather large roster in terms of units. I would honestly love some Pistolier types, just to kind of have that pirate theme. Maybe she could be a pseudo-horde, just like the Vampire Coast, as it would kind of make sense for a seafaring dragon. And the great thing is, she could start either in Lustria, or she could start in Grand Cathay, using a similar mechanic to Loki and Rakaf, where after a certain turn, she can actually just confederate the eastern faction and take her eastern areas, because we know she's the Dragon of the East. I'm very much expecting that we're going to see as many of the Dragon Children, well, the active ones, through DLCs. I was expecting FLCs, let's be very, very honest. But as far as we are aware, FLC Legendary Lords aren't happening anytime soon due to the new system. That might change in the future though, considering player feedback and so on, which again, FLC Legendary Lords and an FLC hero should be the general norm if we're paying more for DLCs. And I do have a feeling that we're going to be paying more for DLCs in terms of Lord packs. I know this is not the most ideal thing to hear, but obviously if we're going to get free races, they're going to say, look, it's more work, so it's going to cost more money. I'm not defending that. I'm not defending that whatsoever, but when we start to see the Lord packs, the first one's due this summer, then we'll be able to actually see if the new prices, or possible prices, because nothing is actually set in stone until we actually see the product. But when we get the first DLC, we'll be able to see if this is actually worth it or not. Now, here's where things get a little bit tricky. You see, we've got the Vampire Coast and the Skaven left, and people will argue for one or the other. In truth, the Skaven could do with a Clan Pestilence themed DLC, we'll get to that in its own section, and the Vampire Coast could do with something a little bit more, because, I mean, yeah, as a race they're fine, but they could do a little bit more flavor here and there. If the Skaven just get a update in terms of patch and no DLC content, then it would just be a Clan Pestilence rework. Basically, give Clan Pestilence the plague mechanics that the Nurgle factions do, obviously with its own theme, a little bit more destructive, I'd say, than benefit bonuses, and you're golden. I mean, this is something that I've been hoping for since the very moment I played Warhammer 3 in early access, because I mean, it just makes sense, right? The Skaven faction that is focused around plagues would be brewing their own plagues. It's something that's very heavily embedded into their lore, and Clan Pestilence is a major clan. Like, I know a lot of people don't care, but they're one of the big four, and they feel like a Warlord clan, which to me, as a lore fan, as a Skaven tabletop player, and generally as a Skaven fan in general, yeah, this is very disappointing. So even just giving them that is a unique mechanic for the Skaven, at least. Now, yes, they could actually have a DLC, because not a lot of Clan Pestilence stuff is represented, barring the core troops that were added in the Army Book in 7th edition, so the Plague Claw Catapult, Plague Priests, Plague Monks, and the Plague Censors. But way back in the day, during a Lustria campaign, once again, very, very popular during 6th edition. 6th edition was probably the best Warhammer Fantasy edition, mostly because how fluffy it was. There was so much interesting stuff there, but there was a Skaven list there which would give you a Lord option, a melee hero option, a few other troops here and there, but that was mostly focused around, you know, just kit bashing stuff, which, yes, would be cool, don't get me wrong, but I would say that the Skaven are pretty much done in terms of troops. The biggest thing that's missing is the Storm Fiends and the Big Rat Demons, which weren't part of this list, and as much as I would like to see more Skaven content, again, I really, really do think it's better than just to get a patch and they're sorted. If they want to throw in a unit for free, that would be fantastic, but even then, we've already got a Grace here. It would be nice to have like a Plague Lord, though, to have a melee-focused Plague Priest as a Lord option, because, yes, as I said, either option is fine. I would be incredibly happy either way, but the main thing is, please, if anyone from Creative Assembly is listening, I beg of you, Plague mechanics for Skrulk. Please. But now we can talk about the Vampire Coast. So this is a faction that doesn't have an army book. They had a supplement way back in the day. This was again 6th edition. Every time I do one of these videos, I keep being reminded on how good 6th edition is, and I really, really hope Old World is based on 6th more than anything else. But here we go, right? They don't have anything. The fact is that the most of the army had to be made up by Creative Assembly and Games Workshop. We know this for a fact. But I have a feeling that Games Workshop are likely thinking about a possible army in the future, possibly in Wave 2 or Wave 3 for Warhammer the Old World, as we know it's now based on different waves. And that could easily have a new unit or two just to kind of fluff them up a bit. Really, the Vampire Coast is one of the best DLCs out there. They're clearly not the best. I'd say that is pretty much Tomb Kings and Chaos Dwarfs, but they rank fairly high up. They could do with a little bit more love. They could do a few fixes here and there just to make them a little bit more viable. A few different units would be great too. But that would depend if the Skaven are the attention or if it's the Vampire Coast. Really, I would love to see some Vampire Coast stuff. I really do enjoy the race. And it would be great just to get a little bit more. Considering that there is a Vampire Coast minor faction in Grand Cathay, they will easily fit in the Realm of Chaos map when they eventually expand it to that area. And not only that, but it's a pirate. So yeah, the pirates can literally be anywhere because that's what they do, right? Now, the thing is, when it comes to characters, this is where it gets a bit weird. Because once I was saying, yeah, you know, it would be great to get Vang Heist. Vang Heist is a really cool character. But the problem is that obviously he is a spell. It could be done differently, like it's just another ghost ship. This is why I keep trying to say Vang Heist. But they could easily make up another character. Let's be honest, Celestra Diaphen is kind of cool. I know some people didn't like her because she wasn't really cemented in lore, but since then she's been implemented in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which means she's canon. Now, I know that some people might be a bit apprehensive, considering that obviously the last player insert that CA did was Daniel, and yeah, not a great character, kind of badly written and so on. But they did well for Lady Diaphen, and I think it's when they have something of a basis where they know they have to stay true to the lore and something that makes sense for that specific faction, that should be fine. Daniel, on the other hand, was Discount Be'lakor, and it was very easy to tell that this was Discount Be'lakor. Whereas with Lady Diaphen, it was more, this is what we know about the Vampire Coast. We have a decent amount of source material. We know certain characters that might have existed. Let's do this and make it fresh. And I think that worked out very well. Now, I very much doubt that the Vampire Coast would get a legendary hero unless they created a new one too. Or what they could actually really do is create a legendary hero specifically for Luthor Harkon. Now, I know that might not sound great, but hear me out. This is Captain Dracula. And Dracula is basically the glorified babysitter of the Warhammer Fantasy universe. Dracula always supports Harkon, despite his very plain insanity. He is incredibly loyal. Like, seriously, he might be the most loyal vampire that's ever existed in the history of Warhammer Fantasy, to the point that when Harkon was having some sort of psychotic episode during the end times, picking up flowers from the ground, yes, picking up flowers from the ground, Dracula was protecting Harkon. Any other vampire would have literally left him to die, but Dracula stayed there and made sure that he just did not get killed. Now, Dracula is in-game as a follower, and he's mostly seen as a end times character, but the fact is that, yeah, you know, it would be kind of cool to have a legendary hero to always be around Harkon, to protect him, to go around that lore, because I think it's a very well-written character. Again, the vampires generally have some very good lore. Even Harkon has some very good lore. And honestly, when it comes to legendary heroes, unless they create a new character for Cathay, which is entirely possible, and there's not really any big named legendary hero characters that could be added in for the Skaven, this kind of works. Honestly, this kind of works. It could be a bit annoying because it's only available to one character. It could work to make a new character for everyone else. But we're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, an idea of this is just kind of like throwing it out to Creative Assembly, throwing it to you guys to see what you think. I really think a Lustria-themed DLC would be absolutely fantastic, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion, and apologies if I'm not sounding too great. I've kind of lost my voice a little bit. It's coming back to me, but yeah, it's a little bit annoying. I'll see you all again very soon, guys. Have a great day.